Hello and welcome to Deep Impact, a proud member of the Duff Network where we dive deep into Wildbow's most forgotten work 5 years on. Coming up next is Elliot Diebold.
And that was Ruben Morehouse.
And we are here to talk about Signature 8.7, which is the final chapter in our Signature interlude arc.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually kind of sad to
I know,
to go.
right?
Like, I've really enjoyed this arc. I'm obviously a huge Mags fan.
Mm-hmm. She's not called that yet. We're going to keep calling her ex-Maggie until the end of the chapter.
I'm going to keep stuffing it up, though.
Yeah, me too. The amount of times I accidentally typed Mags and then was like, wait, no, we don't know about that yet.
I think I've just written Mags most of the time, but
nice.
Can we call her Proto-Mags?
Proto-Mags, yeah. Pre-Mags. Yeah, so this, you're right. I really love this interlude arc. I really love having Mags, Proto-Mags as our point of view character here. Having said that, the ending to this chapter really is a pretty great cliffhanger that makes you want to get into the next one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess stay tuned for the live read soon, folks.
Yeah, it'll probably be happening around when this episode comes out.
Mm-hmm. So the way this chapter starts is with Pre-Mags, again, giving blood to Molly's ghost, which is something that we started seeing throughout this entire chapter. And she apologizes for missing yesterday while she was trapped in some Johannes time shenanigans.
I had completely, like, in 8.6, when she said she wanted to get out at 3:30, I had no idea why she wanted that, and it seems so obvious now. This was her daily ritual. And yeah, I mean, this whole segment is such a great way to, like, round up, the character arc of whatever the hell we're calling this character, that's had this arc.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously we've seen her interacting with Molly throughout the whole story. And I think we probably discussed expecting it to be more overt in the way that Molly's ghost ties back in, but I think it actually quite nicely ties back in thematically to the decision that Pre-Mags makes towards the end of the chapter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, essentially what we see here, and it's something that's been set up, is that the Molly ghost is basically a vessel for Mags to basically she has a bit of a soliloquy here. I don't know why I chose that word. I can't say it. And it's here that she sort of comes to the decision to not go with Johannes' offer. I'm pretty sure. So it's just a really powerful, nice moment that ties some stuff together for the actual tying up that we'll get to later on.
Yeah. When ex-Maggie mentions that she missed a day, I don't know, maybe I'm too paranoid, but I definitely, when I was first reading it, was kind of like, oh, is that going to come back in some way towards the end of this chapter? But it doesn't, which is, I think, the right choice.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought when we opened with a Molly chat is I was like, oh, I see what we're going to do. This
is where she gets the name.
I was like, we're going to lay the seeds here. She's going to go back to Johannes and be like, nah, and then come and get the Molly name as a reward for saying no. But, obviously what happens is even cooler.
Molly's ghost says, hey, that was cool. Here, have my name.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see it. No, I actually think that it resolves in quite a nice way. It resolved in a way that isn't, like, over the top, but isn't, like, nothing. I think it hit the perfect middle ground.
I mean, it's super epic, but it's super deserved. Anyway, yeah, we'll get there. We'll repeat all this when we get there. I also really like this one segment from this scene, where, so again, Mags is just sort of monologuing at the Molly ghost and kind of sorting through her own feelings.
Yeah.
And she has a bit where she says to the ghost, you aren't religious, right? That'd be weird. A church-going diabolist family. And then it says, her light, fake laugh was empty in the still air. And I love how, something I noticed I did both times I read this was, I'm not someone who keeps a super clear picture of the scene in my head, but this line almost makes me do a wide shot of the scene I had been picturing. Like, you do sort of picture a scene of Maggie or Molly near each other, and then the thought of this laugh kind of echoing like through the still air around you just sort of causes you to do this wide shot and just picture her and Molly standing there like alone And it's like, I don't know, it's just such a cool, it invokes these visual images. It's almost like telling your brain to move to a wide shot. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's definitely very easily picturable. Yeah, one of the lines that I like setting up this chapter is, just in case it wasn't obvious enough that this is 8.7, the final chapter in the arc. Maggie thinks to herself, my vision is getting a little weird around the edges, which is making me think I don't have a lot of time. And we see this come through the whole part of the chapter where we really see that things are starting to get real dire for Premags here.
Yeah, it instantly reminds us of that time, and that's something that happens a lot throughout this chapter. As you said, we're constantly getting hammered with the idea that time is running out, and every time she steps into Johannes' domain, it disappears a lot more quickly than it would otherwise.
Yeah, we see time run out this chapter, and it's very cool. Yeah, so ex-Maggie explicitly kind of is saying goodbye to Molly here, or at least she's at the start of this conversation. She basically says to Molly, hey, I'm going to take Johannes' offer, so I probably can't come visit you anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, because 8.6 ended with that really long phone call with her mum, which we sort of said felt like this final goodbye phone call. And then it's so interesting that then now we go here, and now I feel like this is her final goodbye, because I think, obviously you get to say goodbye to your mum and stuff too, but she can only really be honest with Molly is something we sort of touched on in the first half of the arc.
Yeah.
And, that's sort of, it's just her sort of talk, like, as I said, it's sort of a soliloquy, like she's just talking it through with herself, basically, through the Molly vehicle.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it definitely adds to that feeling of finality. So yeah, Premags is quite upset with herself for taking Johannes' deal. And the thing that she thinks about with Molly's ghost right in front of her is she kind of feels like she's doing the exact same thing that led to her being responsible for Molly's death. It kind of feels to her again like she's choosing the Laird Behame over the Molly Walker or the Thorburns.
Yeah, and I think this is the point where she makes the decision to not take the deal. It's not sort of explicitly stated because that's sort of left as something we're unsure about for quite a while.
Yeah.
But just sort of looking at, before she said she didn't want to be visiting Molly because it would be weird if she was working against the Thorburns. And then obviously we know later that she didn't take the deal. So like this is the point where she sort of is looking at Molly, and this is where the Molly ghost, is really used. She looks at the Molly ghost and she thinks, "Oh fuck, I'm doing it again. I'm making the smart choice, not the right choice." And,
obsessed with that analogy.
Yeah,
yeah.
And so she decides to break the pattern.
So the next thing we see is her kind of considering her options, kind of trying to figure out what other options do I even have, and she seems to strike on one, thinking of a way to use the goblins for something. We're not sure what at this point, but she does get Buttsack to tell her where all the local goblins hang out.
Yeah, and there's this great imagery as her and Buttsack walk off of how their limps match each other, which hammers home that idea that she is a bit goblin-y.
Yeah.
Just because of her continued exposure. But yeah, you're right. At this point, you don't have any idea what her plan is to the goblins. And I was like, oh, she's just planning on capturing a bunch and leeching power from them because,
yeah, she'll become even more goblin. I mean, it's probably not a good sign that as herness slips away, she plugs it up with goblin essence.
Yeah.
A detail I really love is that Buttsack seems to be really hated by all the other goblins. He seems to torment them enough that they just don't want to hang out with him, which means he's shitty enough that even goblins don't want to be his friend.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't... He is a particularly hateful little shit, for sure. But I guess I don't picture goblins as super social creatures. Like, I almost feel like they probably hang out together more as a safety in numbers thing than we actually enjoy each other's company thing. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on that, but
no, I think that's probably a fair read.
Like I assume they don't hang out on weekends and have barbecues,
I mean, who knows? They might be really friendly to each other, except not Buttsack. There's one other line here which I thought was really scary, and I really liked it. When she's walking and I'll just read it out. The girl in the checkered scarf grabbed at her scarf before the wind could claim it, and make it so she was no longer the girl in the checkered scarf, but only the girl. Which is such a cool beat, because of course the girl in the checkered scarf is the only identity she has left. So the fact that she could possibly lose her scarf here and be just the girl, like literally have no identity, that is very scary to me.
Yeah, you're right. Like, this terrifies me more than any of the other talk about how weak or anything she's getting. Like, in an arc where she's literally been trying to save the concept of herself, and throughout that arc, she's been referred to as the girl in the checkered scarf. The idea of losing that is suddenly like, oh shit, like,
Yeah.
She's really on the brink.
Yeah. Yeah. So, before she goes and rounds up goblins at Goblin Park, Scarf Girl decides instead that she should visit Johannes for some more supplies.
Yeah, and on a reread, the fact that she clarifies that she's going to need 2 buckets is particularly hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, Johannes, I think, does pretty well here. He again kind of proves that he's being a pretty big chiller. He basically hands these supplies over to Maggie with no ask. She's got a lot of goodwill, apparently.
Yeah, I think there'll be more to say about what I think about Johannes after the bunch we learn about him.
Yeah.
Later, but yes, I mean, he's consistently fairly generous when it doesn't hurt him to be so.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. The other thing that gets mentioned in this chapter is Johannes mentions a duck night, which who knows what the fuck that is, but it sounds fun.
Yeah, I mean, she specifically asks him what's a duck night, and he's like, oh, it's just some other that, tagged along, and now we made a deal. And I was like, that is not what she was asking. Wait, and we all know it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
I mean, I hope we get to find out about the Duck Knight.
Duck Knight is our new POV, Elliot, from Arc 9 onwards.
No, I'm more worried that Duck Knight will be subsuming Earth Zion later in the story.
Yeah. So Maggie kind of seems to get pretty curious about Johannes' familiar, who we've gotten hints of how powerful this familiar is. And so as a weird game / gesture of good faith, I suppose, Johannes exchanges 3 questions with Scarf Girl, where they both are allowed to ask 3 questions that the other has to answer.
So, despite everything I'm probably going to say about Johannes later in the chapter, I really like the dynamic these two have here. Like, it feels like a very reasonable expectation of what a professional practitioner relationship should be. Neither of them like fucks each other over, but they're not like blindly walking around being like, oh, I'll trust everything to you. Like, they're guarded, but like they're both fair with each other, and it was really like, I don't know if we've seen this in the story before, but they're both just kind of nice. Yeah, and it's like it could be like this all the time, everyone.
Yeah, and it's totally set up that Maggie could be fucked over by Johannes here, right?
Yeah, you're right. Like the first time through, you're definitely worried that he's going to pull some shit, especially because Alexis had the same sort of thing with the sisters. Back in Toronto, where they were going to get to ask her 3 questions. So you're sort of sitting there going, well, what's he going to pull or whatever, and of course it just ends up being nice.
Yeah. But again, Maggie, be careful of this stuff. Like, this is what went wrong for you last time.
Oh, well, there was the veto this time. That was what you called out in 8.2, that she needs to get the veto.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, still, that was kind of like if you have to do it, here's a Band-Aid. So Maggie, Maggie, of course, first asks about how he got the domain, and Johannes vetoes it immediately, which is perfect. And instead, Maggie asks about Faisal, Johannes' familiar, and how he landed Faisal as his familiar.
Yeah, I mean, I love that veto because it was just like the obvious use of his veto. So like, it doesn't really feel like the kind of one-sided thing where it was just like, okay, domain is like veto. It was like, okay, well, it's out of the way now.
Yeah, exactly.
But all this stuff we learn about Faisal's so cool. Like, so we finally get confirmation that there are that there are going to be angels in the story. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm really excited to see more. I'm already getting the impression that they're kind of that like black and white moral righteousness bullshit that I love in things like angel representations. So yeah, I'm really excited to see more. I think Johannes was giving me a lot of like anti-Blake vibes this chapter, and of course, finding out he's associated with angels, kind of makes sense for that. He might be everything that's bad about the side of the right, and Blake is everything that's good about the side of the wrong.
When are we getting into some of this Johannes stuff? Because I don't know if we can call him that bad. We'll get into it in a bit, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll wait. Anyway, but so I guess to make sure I'm sort of connecting the dots right here, Johannes was fucking with like the structure of the earth or something, because he said he should have gotten someone from the third choir, and then when this angel came down to basically put him down for breaking the rules, which apparently isn't something they do for demons, but they do it when people fuck up. He managed to convince the angel to join his side, and then also he has these like kick-ass pipe implements. Like it seems like he's really gone 3 for 3 in terms of the power distribution.
Yeah, he really seems to have some really strong stuff at his side. His kick-ass domain, this angel who seems very powerful, and his implement.
He's 3 for 3. Like they all seem great. Like Blake agonized for so long about which one to kind of cut corners on to strengthen the other two, and Johannes seems to have completely skipped that trade-off.
Yeah. I love the way that we find out what Faisal is, because we know that he's really powerful, and we kind of, it gets set up for us, but not in a way where it's kind of explicitly confirmed until the end of the chapter, or closer to the end of the chapter, which means you're kind of like, wait, is he an angel? And then you kind of, it falls into place later, and you're just like, fuck, that's great.
Yeah, I agree. It's sort of hinted so that when you're paying attention, you're like, oh, like I can't commit 100%, but I'm thinking, and then later on you're just like, yeah, that's so awesome.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Johannes, because this is the part where he talks about why this amusement park exists. He talks about how humanity and practitioners are actually winning against the others. Actually, not even just practitioners. The fact that humanity has consistent technological advances, and they are quick enough that others can't really keep up. So Johannes suspects that others are going to become more and more desperate as they continue to lose ground. And rather than kind of let there be a huge war, he basically wants to give others a territory where they can be others and not have to kind of light a spark.
Yeah, so the interesting thing for this to me, like I think the idea that humans have grown in population over the last 2,000 years is something most people have probably connected to by now, and sort of like, oh, like humanity is getting bigger. But I think the interesting angle on that is the whole like the more rapid developments. Like we've seen how I think it was metal is replacing wood as one of the elements and stuff, and like the thing I'd never sort of thought about was that as this is happening more and more rapidly, humanity isn't just taking space away from the others. We're now taking like the power of like symbolism and stuff, because we're going through it and discarding it so quickly that they can't keep up.
Yeah, totally.
So we're encroaching on another angle of we're basically creating another angle of attack on them.
Yeah. I love that conceptually, because we've kind of touched on, I mean, I remember way back in, God, who knows when, I think it was like Arc 5, maybe, when we had the interlude from, who was it? It was when we had the Black Lamb's Blood interlude, probably like Arc 4, maybe?
That was Arc 4.
Yeah. And we were talking about the idea of like a incest succubus demon thing, and how there would be spirits of what were considered like bad things in the past. Like we could imagine a kind of homosexuality demon or whatever, back when it was a huge taboo, or more of a huge taboo. And now obviously times change, and we were kind of thinking about this back then, and this pays that concept off really nicely. The idea that times are changing and others can't keep up, and it means that they're just gonna kind of start falling more and more by the wayside. And I really like the idea of Johannes being aware enough to see that and to set up a system that kind of protects a bit against what could really be pretty badly. What could lead to circumstances where something like others not going after innocence might change.
Yes, I mean there's still the torture of innocent vestiges, but
Mm.
that's a well trodden path. So let's not go down that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I feel like we're really starting to set up these global stakes for the second half of the story.
Mm.
You know, and now all of this stuff. I think where it feels like things are ramping up. We're going to start to see the sort of idyllic conflict that will really summarize, you know, the ending of the story. I think,
Okay, interesting.
which is really cool.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. It kind of escalates our stakes a bit and kind of puts some context to some of the things that we've been talking about with Blake and Black Lamb's Blood and the lawyers, right? Because
Yeah.
the idea that we've gotten up till now is that demons specifically, but others generally, seem to be an unstoppable kind of force, right? Something that continues to get worse and worse and is kind of relentless, kind of tending towards entropy, demonic entropy, right? But Johannes here is kind of talking about the idea that no, that's not actually the case. Maybe it is the case for demons, but for others, we're actually winning this battle.
Yeah, because for a lot of these things, like, you know, if we take goblins as an example, presumably whatever discarded bits of practitioner goblins sprout from, they'd need room to do that in. Like for starters, like that's quite a simple example of how there's going to be less goblins because there's less places for goblins to kind of pop up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it instills a real sense of hope that we haven't had when we've been thinking about others in the past. And it also, I think, possibly lends some more context to why Diabolists are the worst kind of practitioners, because all these other others, we can deal with them. Like, it seems like they can be dealt with on a global scale, but demons, if you make a deal with a demon, you've permanently fucked us over.
Yes, and of course, you know, that depends on whether you know, Blake was making the argument that they're the ones actually dealing with the demons and beating them back,
Yeah, of course.
because they're the only ones who'll go near them. So, yeah, I mean, if anything, it kind of adds more validity to Blake's claim, that, you know, they're one of the more serious threats, and the Diabolists are some of the most important ones if they're the ones hopefully dealing with it rather than, well, dealing with them.
Yes, exactly. So now it's Johannes's turn. So Johannes's first question is he asks her point blank, "Are you going to take the deal?" And she says no. She's refused.
Yay.
Yeah. And this is the first time we really see, oh, actually, she is refusing. She's turned around. And it kind of pays off what we've seen with Molly over the course of this arc, right? And especially this chapter. She doesn't ever want to just be the enforcer of another practitioner. She doesn't want to be the bad guy. Good choice.
Yeah. Again, I think it was really driven by the bit where she says she's really fucking sorry to Molly. Like, it's a really powerful moment. That's the bit where she's like, I have to change something.
Yeah, totally. Good work, Mags. Pre-Mags. So Johannes has one question left, and she's backed into a corner, and he drops the big bomb on her. He asks, "Why can't you swear?"
It's so good.
It's such a fun payoff, right? Because we've kind of hit the beat of Johannes could actually screw over Premags with these questions, and it kind of sets it up. And then drops the funniest question on her. And it's such a, like, mundane answer. Like, yeah, we all kind of knew what it was going to be. She made a bad deal, and now she can't swear. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great anti-climax, because you're right. You're so worried about what this question's going to be that's going to screw everything up, and it's just not.
Yeah. But before Premags leaves, Johannes wants to ask her one more question in exchange for a bit more help. He thinks that there's another reason why she's really refusing his deal, and so he asks her. And she delivers what I think is the greatest burn of all time right here.
It's pretty fucking good.
Yeah. She basically says, "I've only heard of one other person who lured angels down another path, and he sounded pretty convincing." And it seems like, I mean, Johannes kind of takes it in stride, but it really seems like he has to be like, huh, interesting point.
Yeah, there's sort of like, his response of just like, ouch, I think is spot on.
Yeah. Because the parallels are there, right? Like, he seems to have a pretty strong moral purpose that is kind of non-traditional. He's lured this angel. I don't know. I mean, I can see it.
Yeah, and I mean, my favorite types of villains are these, like, calm, self-confident ones, like who believe in their moral righteousness and have a little bit of standing for it. And like Johannes is certainly shaping up to fit that bill.
Yeah, definitely. The thing I like about this though is we've kind of seen Johannes be, on the whole, a pretty generous and nice dude, right?
Yeah.
I really like the idea that she kind of suspects that he will make a heel turn or kind of make some big negative thing. I think that's so interesting. Like, I'm really excited to see the circumstances that could lead to that happening.
Yeah, well, and so I guess because I'm with her, I don't trust this at all. Like, especially, if these angels and stuff were so great, then why aren't they doing anything about the demons, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get the sense that we're shaping up for this side of like right with a capital R to be like very like Old Testament type justice, and I think Johannes is going to be doing something that is maybe utilitarian or something. Like he's going to have some plan that's like, oh, for the greater good of the structure of the universe. But we've already kind of seen that karma, in my opinion, has a pretty shit idea of what's always fair. And I think I'm going to end up landing on the same side of whatever his big plan is.
Fair enough. Well, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. So Premags leaves Johannes' domain, and her strength has really started to wane. With her last little bit of waning strength, she starts preparing for some kind of ritual, and we get hints that it's going to be kind of a domain ritual, but maybe different. It's at this point pretty hard to understand what she's planning.
I mean, my understanding at this point was it was just a straight up domain ritual. It wasn't until fairly late into it that she's like, "Oh, I'm not actually planning a domain," and you're like, "What?"
Yeah.
And of course, while I thought it was a domain ritual, I was really questioning her choice of locale. Like, I sort of got it, but I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Surely you could do better."
Yeah, definitely. What is it? Just like she finds a hut with some goblins in it.
It's next to the swamp. The whole point is it's a park because the land is all swampy and so no one can develop on it.
Yeah. We get a beat before she leaves Johannes' domain, actually, where Johannes puts all the stuff he's got for her in a bag, and she can't lift the bag. Like, it becomes really apparent, like, oh shit, this is way worse than we thought it is. Like, it's kicking off. She's about to be gone.
Well, yeah, and because the thing Johannes says before she goes to pick it up is, oh, I've magicked it so it's 10 times lighter than it should be. And she still can't pick it up. And you're like, oh, man, this is really, like, we're entering the do or die period.
Yeah, definitely. So Buttsack leads X-Mags to this whatever goblin hut,
goblin shack.
Yep. And Premags has some chains, and she starts setting up some chains for some reason. It's kind of, I think, written in a way where a lot of the stuff you're not really meant to be following exactly what's happening until we get to the reveal. It kind of reminds me of the bit where Blake trapped the hyena.
Yeah, I guess for me, I was working off the assumption she was just doing a domain ritual, so I was thinking that we were seeing that ritual in action. So I was just like, oh, okay, so she's forming a perimeter around what she's claiming as her domain. Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. One thing I really like is she gets Buttsack to pass her the bag. She says, "Bag," quietly. She only managed to add the qualifier a fraction of a second before he let go. He caught the strap with one finger, stopping the bag mid-flight, breaking the fall. It's so funny to me. Nice Buttsack, kind of desperately trying to find ways to obey the letter of the commands, but screw with Maggie, and never quite getting there. It's very fun. I really love it.
Yeah, maliciously compliant Buttsack is totally fantastic. Especially, you're right, that the way that they're constantly both trying to screw the other one over, like her by forcing him to be nice and him by trying to find a way around it. It's great. Like the bit where he gives her the middle finger as the signal is pretty fucking hilarious. It's he's like the anti-Evan in a way.
You're right, he is. Buttsack for familiar, I'm calling it. So Buttsack of herds most of the goblins, starts fighting them, and they all get inside the building, and Premags puts together a bomb and blows up the building, causing like chunks of goblin to fly everywhere. But they seem to survive, just kind of really take them out of the picture for a while.
It's so badass, and then also you kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so...
I don't well, I don't understand this part of the plan. Like I I get my read on it is that she's kind of defining herself by her fighting of goblins, right? Which is a
Mhm.
key part of her identity. But I don't know, man. It still feels bold.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're goblins. It's hard to feel too
Yeah,
sorry for them.
sure. And you
But
say I'm
yeah.
bad for not feeling sorry for vestiges. Come on.
No, I stand by that opinion.
All right, fine. I guess I'm just a goblin sympathizer. Yeah. So Premags has blown up the shack, and she kind of crawls her way inside and starts setting up some ritual circles. And it's really falling apart here.
Yeah, like this whole bit is so tense because,
Yeah.
in the back of your mind, you know she's probably going to make it, but just watching her like basically disintegrate, like her consciousness sort of disintegrate as she's doing that, you're just like, oh, like, yeah, it's there's just this sort of empathic like tenseness in you as you read it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the last person I thought, oh, they'll probably be fine, also lost all their connections.
That's true. We we have just had a previous POV character die, so you can't be 100% certain.
Yeah, I really like the idea of this as well. The world kind of is cracking apart, and she's losing her vision, and you can kind of tell that the cracks that are forming here are the place that is calling to her when she has no identity. And it seems like it's a pretty dark place to be.
Yeah, I mean, she refers to it as the void, and I don't know. I feel like maybe these are our hints at where Blake's chilling right now. I guess we'll see.
You still think he's alive somewhere, huh?
I don't know. Maybe. I guess we'll see in 9.1. I think maybe we'll get a new Blake. I think that's what 7.x implied to us. So maybe not. But I mean, this void or whatever, this darkness, may be where the old one ended up. I don't know. I guess no. He got destroyed by a thing of the first choir, so probably not.
Okay. No comment again. So Premags has her ritual circles, and she starts defining her connections. She defines a connection to her dad's, to her mum, to the goblins, of course, to Blake, and the biggest one, to Molly.
Yeah, I mean, she like, this whole bit is so cool, but especially the bit with Molly, because she really puts all of herself into that last one.
Yes.
The one that made her decide to do this is the one that she puts it all on the line for.
Yeah, she starts dripping blood, and the cracks around her yawned wider. The structure shook. She could see one or two of the goblins smiling, which to me is the bit where I'm like, oh, fuck, what are you doing? The goblins know that she is literally about to fall through the cracks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she sits and she reads and she prepares, and then she claims her name. I pulled out the whole bit here, but I don't think I should read it all. She claims her name, Mags, but beyond that, she claims her personality. She claims her role. She claims who she will be in Jacob's Bell. Doing it with a kind of cobbled together domain ritual that means she's making a claim on this, and people have the opportunity to come and challenge it, and she says she welcomes all challenges. She will be the messenger, the ambassador, the deciding figure in Jacob's Bell until I'm replaced or unable to serve. And then she thinks, I will be a part of this shithole for the indefinite future, which kind of takes away a bit from the moment, but it is a very cool moment.
Yeah, no, for me that enhances it, that little bit of comedy there. Yeah, no, this is so cool.
Yeah. It's such a baller move, and it's so satisfying, right? Like, she's claiming this role of being connected to everyone in Jacob's Bell, being the messenger, being the middleman, which is basically what she had been doing through this arc, right? And we kind of, looking back through this arc, we realize, oh yeah, she was talking to the Young Justice, she was talking to Mara, to Andy and Ava, to Sandra, to Johannes. She's kind of got favor with all of them, except, I guess, Mara, but that's probably not possible.
She's about as close to an impartial party as you can get in town. I mean, the only one she had real issues with was Laird, and I mean, that's not an issue anymore.
Who cares about that now?
So, I love just conceptually this idea of a spin on the domain ritual to claim a name as opposed to
Yeah.
a space. Like, it's a very Blake move. I love it.
Yeah, it's very cool.
But this is the sort of thing I wouldn't expect us to ever see Rose do.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you know, as we're talking about how impartial she is, of her 5 connections she's defined her new identity by, 2 of them were one of the parties in the town. So, you know, I mean, nobody else seems to mind. So I guess maybe I'm overthinking it, but like, it does kind of seem like she's team Thorburn more than anything else.
Yeah, fair. Well, I mean, they probably don't know who Blake is, so who cares?
Yeah. Well, everyone got 4 connections.
Yeah. She only named 4. So, kind of one by one, all the residents of Jacob's Bell that she has interacted with come by to not challenge her claim. And we kind of see the goodwill that she's built over this arc pay off here.
Yeah, it's such a great way to wrap up like our little story within a story. You know, we've had our little fairy tale protagonists go through all the challenges, and then it's sort of each one is coming by, and it's like each achievement that she sort of had throughout the whole arc is, you know, being delivered on in a very literal way. It's cool.
Yeah. Including Podrick comes back. He kind of gloats about how he screwed her over, but he does seem to be a bit impressed that she's kind of figured out an avenue for herself.
Yeah, I assume the word interesting was probably going through his mind.
Yeah. Yeah, this is probably what he would have hoped for, right?
Yeah, this is possibly best case scenario for him.
Yeah.
I wanted to pull out this line where where after Podrick leaves, the text just says, "But Maggie was gone, as was Podrick."
Yeah.
And like that's such a good one.
Yeah.
I just need to call out that one line. I was like, nice.
Yeah, and it's great because she as part of her claim, she says, "I claim my strength and I deny Maggie Holt from taking anything further," which seems to be enough to kind of shut down this identity shenanigans right here.
I don't know if it did that. I would be willing to believe that Podrick's just like, there's no interest in keeping it now. If everyone knows and stuff, there's not really any benefits for him.
Yeah, fair enough. The last group that come to no contest her is a strange group of people. Rose, Ty, Alexis, Tiffany. And I realize I didn't put Evan in my notes, but Evan's there too. And they declare no contest. And with that, Mags steps up and she is Mags.
Yes, and again, as we're talking about wrapping up our mini story, tying it directly back into the old one to finish or the main one to finish.
Yes, because Mags remembers Blake, and she says, "Hey, where's Blake?" And they all look at each other like, "Huh?" And it's a great way. I guess we'll talk about the arc in general now, right? Because obviously we know that this arc is taking place concurrently with some Toronto stuff, right?
Yeah.
But we haven't really, after Podrick left, we haven't really seen how it matches up. And here, when they come back and she reveals she knows who Blake is, we kind of see it all click back together again. And it's such a great way of like having us have this side story that has references to the main story and kind of exists alongside it, but it's completely its own thing, and then just clicks and slots back nicely again, kind of thematically and, you know, chronologically into the main story. It's so like neat and tidy. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the vagueness with the time and you know, the effects of Johannes' domain on that meant that this wasn't something we had to worry about. Like, if time had been tracked super well, I probably would have felt the need to be like, okay, so this is when Blake was doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
And it sort of removed itself from that, and then it comes back in at the end, and just, you know, I think we, like, right in 8.2, we sort of mentioned, it was like, well, does this make her immune to the unblakening? And it turns out, yes, it does. But, you know, like, because it makes sense, and now we've got a window into, you know, getting new Blake or whatever next chapter.
Blake Original, we call him. Or Blake New and Blake Classic. Yeah, I love this arc, right? And I love the function it serves in the story, right? Because obviously it seems like the story's coming back to Jacob's Bell, right? And with that, we kind of need to see who the main players are, because we've spent more time in Toronto at this point than we have in Jacob's Bell.
Yeah.
And obviously Rose and the Thorburn cabal are antagonistic to all the other players here. And so it's so good to see who these people are in a bit more depth through this third party's eyes, so we can kind of rediscover the lay of the land in a non-antagonistic setting. It's so efficient storytelling to have this awesome story that also sets us up again for the progression of the main story.
Yeah, absolutely. It stands so well on its own. Like, it's just a great little story, utilizing some characters we already knew. Although even then, like, not so much. Like, it just stands on its own. But as you said, it ties into so many parts of the main story. Like, it's such a fantastic interlude arc. Like, just conceptually, it was so good, and it's just so fun. Like, even if this was the whole story, like if it was just this, like this arc was still so good, like just on its own,
she's such a great
as part of the whole.
Yeah, she is such a great POV, right? Like, she's so endearing, and the story we get of her finding her place is such like a nice self-contained story, and it's got like a perfect conclusion as well. It's like, it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, completely agree.
I think one other interesting beat that we kind of hit throughout this chapter, which is thematic to Maggie's story, but also, Mags' story, but also to the wider story, is the pretty clear hints that are dropping that the lordship battle is really about to pop off. Even if we didn't know that Toronto had just had some stuff happening which kind of sets it up to be expanded into a bit, the fact that everybody is kind of one-upping each other politically and all trying to get Maggie on side and get all their chips in a row, it really kind of says to us, hey, this lordship battle, it's coming, so get ready.
There's a bit towards the end of 8.7 where Mags is like, wow, so Sandra thinks she can beat Johannes? And like, I was thinking the same thing. And like, the only thing I can think of is, the Duchamps obviously have lots of other connections to families they could bring in and Fairy. And I'm thinking, man, Jacob's Bell is shaping up to become a fucking war zone at this rate. Like, if this stuff gets heated, I think everyone's underestimating each other at the moment.
Yeah.
And, you're right. Like, in Toronto, it was kind of some established powers playing with their hands tied behind their back.
Yeah.
Whereas Jacob's Bell looks like it's looking up a lot more volatile.
Yeah. I love the idea of Johannes is obviously very powerful and seemingly has a lot of others more or less at his disposal, right? Whereas Sandra has all the Duchamps and all the interesting people that the Duchamps may have political marriages to, which means there's basically an unlimited amount of potential weird practitioners that could get pulled into this. And that's not even counting like Crone Mara and the Briar Girl and the Witch Hunters and all these people that are interesting enough wild cards that they could play very pivotal roles in the right circumstance. Like, it's really setting the battleground.
Yeah, like, it's crazy how much more epic this is already feeling than what was going on in Toronto. Like, Toronto felt like all these old powers shifting. This feels like a bomb about to go off.
Yeah. So the last thing for us to talk about with this arc is signature. What does it mean? And to me, this is one that's pretty obvious. We're obviously dealing with Mags losing her name and getting her name, and there's some obvious representations of signature there. And I can't think of any other signature meanings beyond the obvious one that could apply. I mean, signature means something musically. There's key signatures, there's time signatures, there's a few different things that signatures could mean, but I don't think any of them really apply as much as the most obvious one.
Yeah, I think the only one I could sort of tie it into is, there's the concept of like something having a signature thing, like, a signature dish at a restaurant, or like someone having a signature move. And, I've like to say, Maggie's signature move was doing the what was it? The smart thing, not the right thing. And she kind of changed that up.
Yeah.
So I think, even if you don't want to phrase it that way, I think the ending of this arc was established, was sort of all built around her changing her pattern.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that sort of holds. But I mean, I think for me, the main thing here is a signature, like, in terms of when you sign something, it's you interpreting your name. Like, you know, your parents or whatever may decide your name, but you decide what your signature looks like.
Yeah, I really like that.
It's your representation of yourself, and that is exactly what Mags had to do this arc, is find her definition of herself.
Yeah, I really like that read. I like the idea of your signature as your own version of your name. Kind of finding the meaning of your name to yourself, I think, is a very applicable theme.
Yeah, it's about how you define yourself, and it's just literally what she had to do.
Yeah, it's on point. And that ends arc 8. What an arc. I loved it.
Yeah, as I said, I'm simultaneously so keen to get back to like Blake, but also so sad to leave Mags.
Well, I'm sure we won't leave her completely behind.
Oh no, she's going to be in the story still, but she had a very fun perspective.
Yeah, no,
hopefully she keeps Buttsack around.
Yeah, I was kind of half joking about the Buttsack for Familiar thing, but thinking on it more, like, I would love to see Buttsack and Evan's interactions.
Yeah, exactly. Those two are going to be fucking fantastic together.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of our show. That's the end of our discussion about Signature 8.7. But don't worry, we're doing the rest of the story too. So we will be back to talk about 9.1 in a few days on Monday the 26th.
I don't think that's right.
Oh, isn't it? What is it today? Oh no, you're right. No, you're right. It's Thursday Friday the 26th.
Friday the 25th.
Thursday the 20th.
Yeah. No, Friday the 26th.
Friday the 26th.
I'll edit around this bit, probably.
No, don't.
9.1, Friday the 26th of July. Tell your friends.
Yep. In the meantime, Elliot will probably be doing his live read of 9.1 in probably right when you're listening to this. Or if you've just started listening to this when it came out, probably started about half an hour ago. So head on over to our Twitter, which is @MediaMDPodcast, and catch up on the first half hour of the live read, and then eagerly await the second half hour of the live read.
So keen to find out what happens in 9.1. Yes. So if you want to hear more about Wildbow stories, the place to go is doofmedia.com, where you can hear We've Got Ward, and that's all about Wildbow stories.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of
specifically.
Well, 2 technically, like, you know.
Oh yeah, true. Worm Wood. I'll pay that.
But I think someone in our Discord was doing the stats, and I think We've Got Ward alone is almost hitting 100 hours. So you know, there'll be Wildbow content to your heart's content.
Actually, one of the things that you'll find on Doof Media, my personal favorite show on Doof Media, is their discussion of the Wildbow web serial Face, called About Face. I would highly recommend checking that out. Episode 2 coming out one day, maybe. Get on it, Wildbow. If you actually do want Wildbow to get on it, maybe one way to encourage him to write more about Face would be to support his Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/Wildbow, donate to him a lot of money and say, this is to bring Face back. Get on it.
And if you want to make sure About Face accompanies Face, you also need to give a bunch of money to patreon.com/doofmedia.
Yeah. Doof Media is entirely supported by its backers, as is Wildbow. So if you enjoy this, you know, give some money. It genuinely does help us out. The reason that our server hosting isn't shit anymore is because people gave money to Doof Media. So stuff like that, it really does help.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you want to leave us your thoughts... the discussion thread earlier. If you want to leave us your thoughts on Arc 8, or if you're really quick, you might be able to get in a final answer to the discussion question, but you'll really have to hurry because we'll be picking the answers basically when this episode goes out because of how tight the timing is with these bonus chapters. I don't know how Wildbow wrote these chapters in this time because we can barely even keep up with talking about them. Anyway.
Yeah, it's insane.
If you want to leave us your thoughts on some of this stuff, the best place to do that is in the discussion thread, which will be linked down in the episode description down below.
But apart from that, we'll see you all on Friday, the 26th of July for 9.1.
See you then.
That time, I'm very confident.